We're going to be using several different color tones. The first one is a base color that will neutralize the entire eye, which will be our eye primer. This will also seal down any oils in the lid that will be produced over the course of the day, which will help your eye application stay in place. This is very important to do first. The next thing is our transition tones, or the middle color tones of an eye application, which you can see in this color zone right in here. Transition tones are not the lightest and they're not the darkest. They are tones that help you transition to the next shade. Go ahead and prime the eyes. I'm using my ring finger because this is the lightest finger. It does not apply a lot of pressure. You want to be very careful when applying makeup to the eyelids because the skin around the eyes is 1/8 the thickness of the rest of the skin on the face. So it can be very sensitive and can really injure quickly. So you want to be really careful. Other eye. We are using an emollient-based product, so as you can remember in our sanitation piece, that anything that has an emollient base or a wet, creamy base, turn this way a little, needs to be removed from the container before use. This can be done with a palette knife onto a palette or the back of your brush. So for example, the back of the brush, scooping some out and applying it directly to your hand, and then using your brush to apply to the face. So I'm going to have my model look up and apply it directly under the bottom lash line as well. It's very important to prime both upper and lower lash lines because you can see skin tone, veins, arteries, things like that in the transparency of the skin. And we want to neutralize this out before applying any eyeshadow, and that will give us the truest reading of color. Next thing will be to apply our base color to the eyelids. And a base color will typically be something that is, I'm going to take this right up here, will be something that's like a light vanilla or a creamy kind of peachy tone. Anything that's going to maintain just that light color and will illuminate the eyes instead of making them look tired by starting with a color that's too dark. So this is going to get packed into the lid first so that we don't get massive fallout right away. Turn this way a little. I did work a little bit of a pink tone in there, so this kind of salmon color is a great base tone if kind of diluted and mixed in with something a little lighter. This gives you a great base to layer color on top of. This will go all over the lid, packing it into the tear duct, all over up to the natural brow arch and to the end of the lid. And then you can take the back of your thumb and just flatten it. Make sure you don't have any creases or crumbles. Same thing to the other lid. A mixture of both that salmon tone and one of your base colors. And we're using matte tones right now. Highlights or anything that has a shimmer to it can also be used for a base color. That will give you a great illumination before applying more color to the lid. In any basic eye application, it's important to have both the color absorption of the matte tones or colors that have no reflection, and then also the shimmers or your highlights that will pop that piece, you know, right in here in the inner corner, right up here in the arch, and those will come forward because shimmer reflects light and matte colors absorb. Next, we'll move into our transition tones, which, like we said, are the transition tones that help you transition to the deepest color. And the darkest color in a basic beauty application will always be at this outer 1/3 of the lid. And when your darkest shadow is applied to the outer 1/3 of the lid, this will help draw the eyes open and up, and it will create the illusion of a larger eye. Transition tones that I like to use are always a nice kind of nude, either a mauve base or a taupey base color tone. And I'm going to take a larger brush. Notice that I sized up my brush for the transition tone because it's getting applied directly in the crease. With that color packing brush, you wouldn't get the same effect of the blend because we have larger, fuller fibers on this one. So going in, I always apply a couple different colors for dimension. So I'm going to dab my brush in those two kind of taupey mauve tones, and you can hit this one too if you'd like, a kind of terracotta warm tone. And then put that palette down so I can blend her eye. I always shake my brush off, not in their face, preferably, right over to the side. And then this will go directly into the crease line. So going back to bone structure, when we figure out how to properly map out someone's eyes, you want to feel with the end of your brush for where their socket lays. And we can tell her socket is right here. So with your transition tone, you just follow it, blending back and forth in a windshield wiper type of fashion inside that socket, and then following the natural socket all the way down. You can still feel that socket right in here, down, and all the way around onto the lash line. You'll notice that I'm further back on my brush as I'm blending, and this is because I want to apply very light pressure into the crease, which will give me a nice light, sort of sporadic blend. We won't get any harsh lines. The closer you are up on your brush, the harder and the harsher that color blend will be. So again, back far on your brush, you're applying light shading pressure. So you're getting a light shade. And we have her open. So you can see this is just starting to anchor the entire look by giving her some transition and some warmth in that crease. Tap off your brush, same thing to the other eye. And if you ever pull up on the lid, sometimes you will have a situation where you need to pull up on the lid slightly to create tension so that you can get it nice and flat to apply the makeup. But you want to be really careful with this because the looser the skin is on the eyes, the more you'll have trouble getting a proper application of a transition tone in the crease, because if you pull it up high, and then you let go and they have a lot of loose kind of slack in their skin, it will go down and you'll create a weird boxy shape. So you want to be careful to really follow that natural bone structure like we've been talking about. So again, back and forth, gently, really feeling for that crease and the natural socket line. So if a transition tone is a little bit deeper brown, you want to be careful not to apply that all the way inside of here, closer to the tear duct, because that will close off the eye. Because these transition tones are such a light taupey tone, they're so light, they're not going to make a big difference and close off the eye. Okay, go ahead and open. All right, so you can smooth those areas. Okay, close your eyes.